All right, this is James Pelton, and I'm here with a Frozen Walrus. And this is a project I've been meaning to connect with for a long time. People have been asking me about this forever. We were just talking before we went on
Yeah,
live about how it's crazy that we have never actually connected just because we've both been in the space for so long. But here it is. We're here today,
that's
so
right.
we
We're
don't need to
here.
worry about it. Welcome, everyone who's watching here today. I appreciate you guys. Please hit the like button. I just want to get out of the way before we start to. I know a lot of people are looking for more info on the yield node stuff that's going on. I kind of felt bad doing a live while that drama is going on, but I know nothing more about the yield node situation than I knew yesterday. So just that same email coming through. Steve says he'll do a video sometime today. So we'll just look forward to that and keep our focus on other things that we can actually, do something about. So here with Austin today to talk about Frozen Walrus. Welcome, brother. I'm glad that you could come on. Do you want to start with a quick introduction for my audience here?
For sure. I'm very happy to be on. Obviously, whenever marketing starts for any project, especially in DeFi, most people claim, have you reached out to James Pelton? Have you done a James Pelton AMA? And actually, before we even get started with my introduction, Hydro Wells is a big supporter of you because I asked them what is the best, because I work with Hydro Wells pretty closely, and I said, what's my best marketing strategy here? And they said James Pelton and your bonks, and those are the two they gave, right? And so I was like, you can't really argue with that. So I'm on here to introduce myself to your community, and I'm very happy that you actually moved my AMA way earlier than I had scheduled. So I really do truly appreciate it. But my name's Austin. I go by Lame Hillbilly. I've been in DeFi full time since January, running DeFi protocols. My early story is a little bit wild, how I took over a protocol from being a community member to a mod to owning a protocol and then launching my own protocol that is Frozen Walrus, which was a Centaurus protocol or a Tomb Fork, which James does know plenty about. The Tomb Fork game was real back in the day. And we're hitting the bear market like everyone else and pivoting and trying to provide products and real revenue and services to DeFi that aren't currently there or are there and are great models, similar to what Walrus Anglers Club NFT is. So I guess that's a pretty good introduction.
Yeah, no, that's great. I was hesitant to call you Austin because I can never remember who's like officially doxxed and who's
I'm
not.
doxxed, man.
Okay.
People know I'm from Kentucky. I'm a hillbilly. I have publicly doxed YouTube channels. This is what I do. I'm very front facing.
Yeah, no, that's awesome. I think we have a similar. People tell me like, "Oh, you're not being cautious and all this," and I'm like, you know what? It is
but
what it is.
People take that. There's obviously a risk in doing what I do, but I obviously couldn't be half as effective if I wasn't doxed publicly, right?
Yeah, totally agree. So that's awesome to see. So can you kind of tell me again? I'm very familiar with Tomb Forks, but can you kind of give me where you guys started and then kind of what you've run into? Most of the Tomb Forks are kind of not doing well right now. And then can you kind of talk about how that journey's taken you somewhere else? You want to kind of just tell me your whole journey.
So I actually started in a protocol called Snowy Owl and Arctic Fox, and I don't know if anybody remembers, but they were about a 1 month Tomb Fork emission schedule, which you probably know and most of your community probably knows it's insanity. That is the degen on top of degen. It was and I didn't know that when I first came on, and I did really well in it, but they let me become a moderator, and once I did that, I was one of 5 moderators and the only person chatting for like 18 hours a day. I really wanted to be in this full time, and I had no backing, so I just did it. And the developers started receding really bad, and I could tell that they just didn't want to be there. So I said, you know what, this community is really good. I've done a lot of work and publicly doxed myself. Just hand me the keys to everything, and they did. And so I ran that as efficiently as I could. And that's right when the bear market was really starting to hit. And I was like, I want to launch something that I'm proud of with mechanics that I know will work a little bit better. And that's where Frozen Walrus came into play. And when we launched it, it was actually, we were going to be launched to UST. We were going to be pegged to UST. And my developer had to delay for a week. And during that delay, that 1 week, UST completely collapsed. So we pivoted. And that's when I first realized that pivoting in DeFi is absolutely essential. And we went to USDC. So we launched and we went up in the Genesis pools to about 800 to 900K. We dropped back down after the Genesis pools to about 140K. And I'm sweating bullets, thinking, are we going to gain any steam? And then shortly after, the amount of support and stuff that I received from all the work that I was putting into this really started to show. We had LP nodes and a couple other things that really gave us some initial liquidity. And we got all the way up to about 9 million TVO. And we were really kicking there for a little while. And we were releasing good products and had good community sentiment. And then we would launch Narwhal, a second peg token using the same share token. And that really caused a bit of a debacle between maybe there was a lack of education and just market sentiment overall. We started having a bank run, and it was a pretty vicious bank run for no seemingly good reason. It just happens in these tune forks. People started cycling out, and it caused a large downturn. And then things get more complicated because I had to release what I called the back to peg campaign. And I don't know who's familiar with that, but it really helped us put some wind back in our sails. But shortly after, we started losing that steam. And what I realized is the contract had become insolvent because of the way that it works. And so I actually ended up overall through the entirety of that, I used about $350K to pay back my investors from our treasury to make everybody as whole as possible. So everybody came out of that pretty good except for the treasury. And that's part of the process, is learning and making mistakes and learning to get back up and try something new, especially in a bear market when nothing really works. We have this ability as DeFi protocol leaders to kind of get a little wild and crazy with what we develop and what we implement. So that's kind of the short notes of what I've done so far. And of course, we've released some new mechanics called X Walrus into our ecosystem that is actually so far taken over 34% of the supply of Walrus out of circulating supply, which is absolutely insane because it's only been out for about a week. But we have a lot of mechanics at play, and we are developing, of course, a balancer fork on AVAX, and then we have Walrus Anglers Club. So that's kind of the spiel.
Awesome. No, that's a great story. And I think you're totally right. That's why I like to do AMAs, is because I'm trying to figure out, is this team going to be able to pivot? Because we're finding out in the bear market, it's becoming just obvious. Nothing is working kind of the way it's intended to. So it's like, who's able to kind of move quickly to things to keep what they're doing alive until the bull market comes back.
There's plenty of people that got crushed in this bear market, and we saw them just walk away, right? It got too tough. And listen, I ain't been paid for 6 weeks. I do this for absolute free while the market is bad right here. And there, of course, I'm not saying that I should be compensated or anything like that. I'm just saying, like, that's how much passion I really do have for this, is I'll do it for free and still give back to my investors and find value the best ways that I can, because I really do love this. I have real passion for this industry, and being home and being a stay-at-home dad, I have 3 beautiful children, and I'm truly blessed to be in this position and be able to do things like do an Ask Me Anything with you. And it's I don't take that position for granted, or I try not to the best of my ability. But I'm always here, and I'm gonna keep trying, and that's the best I can do.
That's awesome, man. I wish I'd met you sooner. You seem like a really, really solid guy. So this is awesome. So we've seen with these seniorage protocols, like most of them are doing very, very, very poorly. Can you kind of talk about, is that still your goal, is to keep PEG and still be a seniorage protocol, or have you pivoted away from that, or is that still kind of the end goal of what you're doing?
So really at the core, a seniorage model is really whenever there's demand for the PEG token that beats out the supply, you get a piece of the pie via share staking, right? You get a piece of the Walrus expansion, right? That's really what a seniorage model is. And so the only thing that really was lacking in these seniorage models was a real contraction. All we had was the legacy bond feature, but there really was no 100% contraction. And we're actually introducing that with X Walrus. And I think it's doing a lot better than even I expected it to do, because 34% of our total supply of Walrus is just out of the market. And so we're pretty much shorting our entire supply until there's a short squeeze, is actually what's happening right now. But I do like the core mechanics of seniorage model. That's why we use it in the US and many other industries use it. It is a good model, but the problem is that people don't understand that no matter what the PEG is, it is secondary, because this is a yielding protocol, and you are yielding the entire time. The same exact amount of Walrus shares given out every single day. Of course, that price will go up and down, but the user still gains that many Walrus shares as far as tokens. So if you're long on Frozen Walrus, the mechanics are still there. And so I really like this model, and I just want to build on top of it. And whenever we're in illiquid markets like we are now, what can we do as a protocol to kind of be more concise and efficient and taking some of that supply off the market, so that when there is demand and we do drive demand, then there's a short of supply, meaning that it's much easier to, ensure the peg or higher prices for users that are using it.
Okay. Nope, that makes a lot of sense. And I'd like to maybe as we're closer to the end of the AMA, I'd like to just kind of get your thoughts on, hey, what's the best way for people to get involved? Because I think that's the hardest part for people is, do they come in and get into the, the Walrus USDC liquidity pool? You go buy some X Walrus. So I'd love to talk about that. But can you talk to me about the NFTs first? That seems to be kind of a big direction that you're going.
So Walrus Anglers Club is a 10,000 NFT collection, and it was actually created by Hydra Wells artist. I really love the Hydra Wells team. I'm invested in them through our treasury. I've been speaking with them a lot. They're amazing guys, and they've really helped me a lot. But I commissioned them to make these NFTs, and I really like the model because what I love about mining and proof of work is, one, it's the best security you can have in DeFi. Proof of work is not going away. No matter what anybody says, like, it will stay in DeFi. And I'm sorry to tell you if you're if you love the environment and stuff like that, but it just is. And so with proof of work and this mining protocols like this, where you can own some of these miners or a piece of these ASIC miners that are insanely priced, we were just talking about it, is that, you're taking a risk capital of about 100 USDC per NFT, and you get a piece of the mining rewards, which is in Kadena for our first farm. And really, we chose Kadena because it is a newer network. They just came out with these KA3 miners, and it's kind of like our moon bag. But to speak to that, we are not stuck with just Kadena. Each farm that we open, we're going to look for the most optimal price point for the ASIC mining. What's the best out there? Say Litecoin is performing a little bit more stable than Kadena is at the time. Well, we can look for, a Litecoin farm. My business partner, Sean, he did this for multiple years where he priced ASICs, got them shipping and receiving for other people and finding leases that can host these things. So, we're very confident with his ability to be able to do this. So that's kind of a brief overview. You're buying NFTs for a piece of the mining profits.
Yeah. Okay. Totally get that. Yeah. And I want to, Reed says KDA miners, a sore spot for James. And yes, it definitely is. Yeah. So just to share my story. So bear markets hurt miners, not just coins. But like, I bought this KD5. I bought two of them back in, it would have been like September of last year. And I paid $50K for my two KD5s. And now they are making 90 cents a day after electricity. And then
what was your ROI on that? Did you get ROI on any of this?
Not yet. So I've not sold any Kadena tokens.
That's
so Kadena, let me see if I can let me just pull up the Kadena chart real quick, just so people can kind of understand. So Kadena has some of the best blockchain technology of any project. Here's kind of what their chart looks like. So, they were up at 20, I think they hit, $25 a coin. Yeah. And then when the bear market hit, along with everything else, they're down at $1.20 or something like that. So I've not sold any Kadena tokens. I have like 20,000 Kadena now.
Hell yeah.
So, if we ever get back up to bull market prices,
but I think we do for Kadena. You know what I mean? I think we do because, and this is the best time to buy these ASIC miners, is what we really start trying to tell people is that buying them in a bull market, you're paying 10x over, right? They're over evaluated because the demand is just so high because the token prices are higher. But we're buying at a part where Kadena is still building. They have amazing technology. They're going to be bigger and better the next bull cycle. So why not get these KA3s or whatever is available on the market, start mining now, compounding. And when we see Kadena, have price appreciation, which some people assume price appreciation in their numbers, but we're trying not to. We're trying to say, look, baseline, if we're still in a bear, this is what you should expect, right? $1.30 for Kadena, $1.40 for Kadena. But some people are projecting, 4, 5, 6, even up to, I think some people are projecting even 8. And that would be great. but I want to show what these NFTs can do with absolutely no price appreciation, right?
I love that. I love that. Yeah, and just so people can see what miners you're getting. So I got the KD5s for 50K. Then the KD6 came out, and so I spent another 50K on a KD6, which is making
what
me
we were originally
$4
going to
a
get.
day.
Yeah,
And
that's
then
what we were going to get.
okay, and then now, yeah, the KD Max came out soon after that, which is doing better. And then this KA3 came out, which is just a crazy, crazy, crazy machine that basically makes all these other machines worthless, in my opinion. So,
Yeah.
We'll see. But you're trying to get your hands on KA3s? Is that what you're doing?
Yeah, so I had to make a announcement about an hour before I came up on the Ask Me Anything. We actually had a deposit down for these KA3s, which for people that don't know, the KA3s released on October 1st, and we actually started minting on October 1st. But the good thing about having Frozen Walrus as the DeFi protocol backing this is that we actually fronted the money to purchase these KA3s. We bought them from a secondary market over in Hong Kong. We had them for $6,300 a piece, and they launched at $5,300. So it was a great price point for us. And we put the money down, but Sean had noticed there was some insolvency issues with similar companies over in Hong Kong literally an hour ago. So I just got this news. So you're getting it fresh off the press. And so we actually took that money back. We took our deposit back so that we, because if they became insolvent, we're not getting that money back. And we just didn't want, to do something that could potentially hurt the investors, and rush a process that we have time to manage, right? There may be an increased price in these KA3s. They're probably going to go for 11.5 to 12, 12,000 a piece. But we're ready to make that call because even at 12,000 a piece, the KA3 miners are insane. They were given from the KD6s a 6x value difference in how much we're mining per day. So
yeah, it's crazy. And so the way mining works for people who don't know is it goes by how much hash that you're able to do. And so for most of the Kadena miners, like the KD6 that I bought, I was, getting 29 terahash a second. It was like, oh man, this is going great. Then Bitmain, I don't even know how they did it, but they came out with this machine, 166 terahash. And it doesn't use hardly any more power. And
I know it's actually crazy how they've developed this. And like, that just shows you, like, don't think I am a Bitmain Antminer maxi, because they will undercut this and make something better in no time, as fast as they can. And they will launch it on the market. And you could see what happened with James here with the KD6s and the KD5s. They don't care. They're just trying, it's a business that it's got some weird behaviors in it, and they're cutthroat.
Yep, totally. And I, for me personally, I would be hesitant to buy any non-Bitmain miners at this point.
Yeah.
They just have it figured out. And
they do.
So very cool. Well, that's awesome. Okay, so can you tell me what exactly one of these NFTs? So they're 100 USDC per mint on the AVAX network. Can you kind of tell me what, how long until ROI? Is it similar to the Hydro Whales model?
It is.
Or what
It is.
kind of
It's
ROI
very similar. So we still plan on purchasing the KA3s. Now, we do have a higher mint count needed for the upfront cost now because, of course, the price appreciation on the KA3s. But each phase is 2,500 mints, and each phase actually goes up in value, similar to Hydro Whales. We use a lot of Hydro Whales mechanics at play because obviously, they've already 6x'd in value. They've got it figured out as well. And we just took a more simplistic approach in how we produce them. So, it's going to take about 3,400 mints to get and procure our first farm. But we do already have our lease, and we do already have our business insurance. All we need is to host the farm, and then as an NFT purchaser, what you can expect for ROI and things is once we get the farm up and kicking, we're still looking for December because everything's on pre-order right now for these for the KA3s. I mean, nobody has their hands on them. In fact, someone sent me an eBay listing for a KA3, and I wish I could have you pull up the picture of it, because all they did was take another Antminer and they actually photoshopped the sticker and just put it in Arial font KA3, and we're trying to sell it. It's one of those things that there's plenty of scams in this space as well. But as a user, what you can expect on ROI and things is a little bit different now with the variables at play. But once we get our actual miners running, we're going to have a 6-month compound period, which is pretty standard in this type of industry, where we'll start trying to accrue more money for potentially new farms and things like that. But after the 6-month period is over, we will start having monthly votes. Do you want to claim and do you want to compound? And I think many people will be voting for compounding with Kadena at these prices. So, I actually have a white paper. I don't know if I sent that to you, but it kind of breaks down what you can expect to see, which has some iteration issues because, of course, the information that just came out an hour ago. But we were looking at about $15 per NFT a month with the KA3 miners. So I think that the expectation can still hold true. And this is a $100 investment. We made these things priced very cheap because a lot of these mining protocols really do charge an arm and a leg to me, because $100 is a lot to me, and I know it is for some other people as well. So I felt like this was a good risk versus return ratio for that $100 price point.
Okay, nope, that's great. Great info. So one question people have, Arvin, who's part of my community, why choose you? I'm not sure if you're familiar with Kadena hashing, but there's a couple of these NFT projects that are focusing on Kadena. Do you want to maybe talk about what might set you apart or be different than?
So the thing about us is we're not strictly on Kadena. Kadena is the moon bag, and that's what we wanted to launch with because I think it is one of the most lucrative things, especially with the KA3. So we're starting there, but again, we're not tied to geographical location on where we'll start putting our farms. We have actual physical farms. This one is in New Zealand, which of course is mainly hydroelectric, and it's about 7 minutes from Sean's house. So we're very local to the area of where we're going to be producing our miners. But past that, from the actual protocol standpoint, there's Dow King says that I'm DeFi famous, and there's a reason, because I've constantly produced value for my investors. And if it's not in the token price, it's because of the value and integrity that I bring. And so, being publicly doxed and already doing that, I like to think that is a strength of the project itself. But also, the overhead is so little. I only have 2 team members realistically on this because Frozen Walrus has its own set of team members. I only need Sean and myself. And if you look at most of these teams, they do have large teams. Like 15 to 20 people. And my thinking is that they have to afford to pay those 15 people, right? You're not going to work for free. For us, I'm always kind of anti-greedy. So I only took 5% of the entire pot for me and Sean, right? That's it. Everything else is getting reinvested back into you all through a 20% going to a community wallet and 75% going back to holders. There is no split of like any other amount. It's just like I gave a massive chunk back to the community because this is a community project. And there's benefits to Frozen Walrus as well because we're going to be keeping some of it. So it's a revenue source for us.
Okay. No, but that makes a lot of sense. And yeah, just so people know too, like Kadena hashing is, like you said, Kadena only. In fact, you need a Kadena wallet address and all that to even mint and all that. So this is, just kind of different. And a lot of it might just be which teams do you prefer and which teams do you trust. If you're already in Frozen Walrus, you already know Austin, then maybe, hey, I'd rather, go here. I don't know the Kadena hashing team as well. So that would be something to consider.
And we also have a simplicity at play, is that there's not a large risk investment taking place. It's only $100 comparatively to some of these more expensive ones. But we're not requiring any kind of Kadena wallet. Now that would be great, but being able to accrue those wallet addresses and then having to educate the community on how to open up a new wallet through Kadena, we actually are superseding that process by actually bridging the funds before distributing back into the Avalanche chain. And as long as you hold the NFT, you get 1/10,000th of a profit. We'll just airdrop it to everybody. So you just have to hold it. You don't have to worry about your wallet address or anything like that. So we really try to make it simple for the user as well.
Yeah, and I appreciate that. So I'm kind of over some of these projects that make it really difficult to do things.
Yeah, man.
So a couple questions from the audience, though. The bear market's hitting people hard, and we're seeing that left and right. Selling the NFTs might be a challenge. Will the sale remain open until all NFTs are sold, or do you plan to burn unsold NFTs?
So with these specifically, you're basically raising capital to give the funds, for the farms and all the upfront cost. And that is why, we just leave the mint open. If we start having difficulties to sell, I'll be looking for. It doesn't really get bigger than James Pelton, so I'll have to really dig deep to find something other than doing an AMA with James Pelton to continue marketing, because I think our product is really good. It's solid. It's a lower risk. There's a trusted team behind it. I've managed $1 million portfolios of treasuries and sent it back to users and never spent a dime. And so if we get into a position where it's getting difficult to mint out, my major goal is to just get the first farm and have that, the proof of work done. Like, hey, listen, we actually have a farm and it's running. And I think that really sells most of the other NFTs afterwards. So I have to believe that we can at least mint out, about 340K USDC worth of NFTs because of it being a solid project.
Okay. Nope. That's super helpful. And then Jay says KDA hit $25 last bull run. What's the expected revenue for mining next bull run? And I'll just answer that for you. By the way, the replay of this will be available. We kind of already talked about this, but they're doing their numbers based on Kadena not going up in price, which I will say it will go up in price in the bull run, but they're doing their numbers and kind of acting like, no, we'll just stick at $1.40 Kadena. But I think personally, I'm not part of the Frozen Walrus team. I think Kadena could go up to $30 or higher. I hope so. Maybe that might be hopium because I have so much.
We've all got a little bit of hopium for the next bull run because we've been crushed by this bear cycle, right? But I agree with you to an extent. I just think it's dangerous as a protocol to say, hey, listen, this is what Kadena could do, and this is what your APR would be. A lot of people speak in those terms, but for me, I've always been very transparent and not trying to FOMO in. Of course, every project lead has to do some type of FOMO to get people involved, right? But I think it's dangerous to set an expectation like, hey, if Kadena hits $4, you could be looking at 90% ROI.
Yeah.
That's unfair to you as an investor. And I've always been like this. I just won't do it. And so we're giving you baselines, and if it goes up, everybody's happy, right? So that's kind of how I go into it.
I actually really love that because that is how a lot of things get sold is, well, it's not worth anything now, but in the future, it'll be this. And even during the bull market, people were, doing things that way. So I love that you're doing it just based on, hey, here's where it is. It will hopefully go up, but we're not counting on that for sure. That's awesome. Okay, so let's talk about, so if you're an investor and you're coming to Frozen Walrus and you're new, so a lot of my audience have not been in this. They've been in, other seniorage protocols. What's the best way for people to get in? Like, should people, I know you can't give financial advice, but should they mint an NFT? Maybe we can go through some of the things in the app and talk about the pros and cons of getting into different farms or nodes. What would you kind of recommend people start looking at?
So right now, I would have to recommend, before you do anything, if you want to do the research, I actually do have a YouTube channel where I do weekly updates on my own project. We do weekly AMAs for my own project, and I also do educational videos for Tomb Forks. And so I highly recommend you check that out before you even touch an investment. Just to be honest, it's just one of those things that I just can't, I can't recommend enough. People have said that it really did help them. And I'm very big on educated investors because they make better investors for the protocol. So first off, do that. But then currently our big play right now is X Walrus. And all you have to do is buy Walrus and then you can mint X Walrus. And so what happens with X Walrus is that every mint of Walrus into X Walrus is more expensive. It goes logarithmically up. So right now it costs about 1.17 Walrus per X Walrus. And that will continue to go up, right? So it gives value to holders by doing it earlier. But what happens with your Walrus when you mint into X Walrus? If you click X Walrus up there on the tab, it'll show you the menu that we have. And it'll, if you have your wallet connected, it tells you down there how much it is. So what happens with your Walrus whenever you get into the X Walrus? So it burns 25% off the top. The other 75% is sent to a reward contract that drips out to Walrus Share LP holders into a new farm. So X Walrus has its own farm, like any other Tomb Fork that has farms. X Walrus has the highest allocated farm. It's currently printing at about 1% daily right now. And then the Walrus Share LP farm is printing Walrus, which is a bit weird for Tomb Forks, but it's printing it at about 0.8%. And what we've actually seen is 87% of those holders are actually recompounding Walrus back into X Walrus. And so we're seeing this effect of Right now, we have it at about 34% of the total supply is locked up in this contract, which is amazing because we're not printing any more Walrus. So I highly recommend, for simplicity's sake, take a look at X Walrus. All you have to, and again, the risk here is that it is illiquid, right? You can't exchange it back for Walrus or do anything with X Walrus until we produce new farms via our balancer decks. And we will allow them to be liquid at that point. But you can stake it. You can just mint X Walrus and then stake it. Start earning Walrus share at 1% daily. And of course, your X Walrus will actually go up in evaluation each mint of X Walrus. It just goes up logarithmically.
Okay, sorry, I've got people around me making a lot of noise. This is the joys of working from home. Hey, you said you're staying home.
My baby's crying upstairs right now.
Yeah, there you go.
Amazing, man.
That's why I always mute when I'm not talking, because I'm like, oh no, people are gonna think my house is crazy, which it is. So for people who want to get in, the first thing they need to do, if they wanted to get into the X Walrus, they need to buy Walrus. Is that correct?
That's correct. And it's currently at its cheapest price it's been in quite some time. After the PCP, everybody dumped about 800,000, but we've pretty much soaked that up. It's at about 19 cents, and of course, it's pegged to 1 USDC .E. And so obviously, it's got a while to go. But if you think about it, 34% of the supply is completely out of circulation on 1.7 million tokens. As that number increases and more compounding is taking place, X Walrus not only goes up in value for you as a holder, because every single time it gets minted, you as a holder from an earlier X Walrus mint automatically have an increased value. So it's a really cool mechanic, and it really gamifies the scenario that we're in, which is a low liquid market, and allows a user to take on risk, but also take on a lot more reward into the protocol.
Okay. And then are there other aspects that are worth people, like our bonds or nodes or rebates? Are those things still profitable, or is the X Walrus kind of the focus right now?
So rebates, of course, are whenever there's a high demand for your peg token. You're able to get protocol and liquidity in return for a discounted price on the peg token. And we had plenty of rebates early on. We ran for 2.5 months at a very healthy rate. Bonds, of course, are great. We actually have a single stake farm for bonds. But at this time, if you're willing to take that risk, I would actually prefer X Walrus because not only can you as a user yield more, but it does actually help the protocol because it is burning a large supply of Walrus. Currently, we have from X Walrus alone 144,000 Walrus out of the ecosystem in 7 days, which is insane. That's a massive amount. And eventually what's going to happen is the supply is going to tighten up so much that we will cause a little bit of a short squeeze of DeFi because there won't be any more to buy, and people are going to continue to try and buy X Walrus via Walrus. So that price is going to go up. X Walrus is going to go up. The burn rate for Walrus will go up. And you can see that kind of these GameFi mechanics kind of perpetuate themselves up and up and up. And eventually we will have some type of short squeeze, and it should be much easier to secure LP to keep a healthy peg. Or that's the hope anyway. Of course, there's risk, James. You know this.
Yes. Oh, yes. Yeah. And a lot of risk for sure.
Yeah.
Are the nodes, are those something that you recommend? I know they're, not getting super high percentages.
Yeah. So the nodes, they do require new investors to come in and increase the yield for those. We're actually going to be releasing the nodes, as in like allowing people to take their investments out, because we are doing a full liquidity migration. So I haven't been recommending nodes because we're going to be unlocking them so that people can move their liquidity from Trader Joe, because it's just, there's so much value in owning your own liquidity. And if we have this big, beautiful DEX, we need to make sure we're using it right. So that's kind of the play right now is really X Walrus or the Walrus share farm for Walrus. And that's the biggest two plays that we're pushing, because that narrative alone will peg us eventually.
Okay. Gotcha. Thanks for walking through that. So I'm going to ask you, and I know predictions and things like that, we can't hold you to them, okay? Because you don't know what's going to happen. No one knows what's going to happen. But where do you kind of see all this going in Frozen Walrus? Like if you look forward, maybe in DeFi, maybe like a week should be what we should be predicting out. Yeah. But let's go forward like maybe 3 or 4 months. Where do you kind of see Frozen Walrus at that point?
So we're going to have what I expect to be a blue chip balancer DEX that hosts our own liquidity with burn mechanics in play for our tokens specifically. We'll have new yield bearing tokens because now you'll have new farms for Walrus share and everything alike. So I really expect a lot of demand to come in from that. And for these next couple of months, however long it takes, allowing X Walrus to continue doing what it's doing best right now, I think that we're going to have a lot of power and demand in our LPs, and that's going to start perpetuating a positive price action in all of our tokens. So I hope in 3 to 4 months we can be much healthier, but also in 3 to 4 months, I want real revenue from Glacier that's coming back into Frozen Walrus Treasury. And realistically, and we'll even look out a year, I want to reset my emissions after 1 year to go back another year. So once we go through a year of emissions through Frozen Walrus, I actually want to do it again. And I know that may sound crazy to introduce more tokens, but of course, if we can meet the demands of it, that's what I want to do. And I want it to go back into, we have real revenue coming in that can match the APRs that we're pushing out. People are spoiled by these APRs and tune forks, and it's just really unsustainable. And I want something healthy that makes the community educated and happy to be able to park their money in there and use those profits for gains elsewhere if they want to go DGen DeFi. It's very difficult to get there, but that's the process that I'm going through right now.
Okay. No, and then we have a question from Funny Turo, who's a good part of my community also. Turo, it's good to see you. Are there any charts that LHB can share which will assist new users to bring the protocol back to peg? So, and I'm not totally sure, but what do you think?
So I have a YouTube video that talks about X Walrus and its kind of mechanics at play and how it's going to get us back to peg. And I actually am going to be releasing a new video about X Walrus and kind of the success it's seen because I'm so happy about it. But it'll also explain kind of in more layman terms, because I've always heard that's what I'm good at is because I'm a little bit, I'm not super intelligent. I'm not, top tier. But what I can do is take very complicated things and then simplify it in hillbilly terms. And that seems to help people out a lot. And so that's what I'll be doing is talking about X Walrus in layman terms and explaining, hey, this is how it's getting back to peg and this is how much damage it's already done. And this is where you could see it in the future. And so there is already a video out there by me, but another one is coming out shortly that could explain it a little bit better.
I love that. You taking technical things and putting them in hillbilly terms. That's kind of what I try to do, except for just instead of hillbilly, I'm just in Nebraska. So just like average person. That's what I'm trying to do is take technical speak and let's turn it into normal stuff. So that's awesome. I love that. Do you want to talk about what you're doing with the treasury and what other revenue streams there are and what other revenue streams you're building?
Yeah. So speaking of Walrus Crypto Radio, that is actually my podcast that I do. It is supposed to be a new revenue stream and ad spot for Frozen Walrus. And so we actually have 3 podcasts already recorded. I'm actually recording another one tonight. I love that medium. So that is one of the revenue sources that we're coming into, and they all could be small right now, but the foundation is being built to make them as big as possible. We also have Glacier, the balancer DEX that's coming out that will, of course, support Frozen Walrus, but also acquire revenue for Frozen Walrus. And balancer DEXs are all the hot rage right now, as we know. But also, there isn't really one on AVAX. There's only one competition in AVAX I have to worry about, and that's Trader Joe, and he's an old man that's been ruling too long. So we're looking to try and take any of that market share we can by launching a blue chip DeFi protocol. And I'm very excited about it. There's exciting features on it. And then, of course, Walrus Anglers Club will be its own source of revenue for the treasury because we can mint up to 500. Now, likely we only keep about 200 for the treasury, but we can mint up to 500. And so that's an actual real revenue source. And the thing about these mining protocols that I love so much, these NFTs, is that it doesn't require any entering and exiting of new members, right? It just is there. It's mining and you're getting rewards. And so that's really exciting for a revenue source that is kind of like, hey, hands off. I'm just like, it's just making money. I don't have to like deal with sentiment and new users or old users, right? It's just a mining. It's just mining there. And so that's why I really like that as a revenue source.
And the chat has taken strange directions in coming up with other ideas for revenue sources. So I don't it's if LHB sold his feet pics, the NFTs would sell out. So there's a lot of ideas. If you're looking for ideas, come join the chat and you can read those later.
They've been trying to get stuff like that out of me for quite some time, James. I don't know what to do about it, so I just kind of move on past it. You know what I mean? You can't.
That's right. Stay strong.
I'm not gonna open up an only feet. It's not happening. My feet are only for my fiance.
Yep. Stay strong, man. Stay strong. Don't give in to it. Do you want to talk again? You mentioned this earlier. And again, we'll kind of start to wrap up here. Some of these questions, if we don't get to your questions, we already addressed it. And so just watch the replay. It'll be available right when we're done here. But can you talk about how the NFTs that you're doing, is connected to the Frozen Walrus side of it, and how those two things are connected to each other?
Yeah, so whenever I launch something from Frozen Walrus, these products, I want to ensure that it can stay standalone, but also trickle back into Frozen Walrus and the healthy ecosystem. So the only way that it's really tied together is that, one, every mint that you buy, 50% of those funds actually buy Walrus share. So we already have about 45% of the total supply of Walrus share, so we're causing a squeeze in the share token as well. And we're only at 800 mints, right? So we have another 9,200 to go that will all be buying Walrus share the entire up, about 600K injected. So of course it's a huge benefit to Frozen Walrus and the ecosystem, but also we get to keep some of those NFTs as revenue. But again, that's it. It's a standalone product. Once it's launched in the NFTs, Walrus Anglers Club is its own breath, right? It takes its own life. That's the only thing that connects them at this time.
Okay. And so Sabri says, I love a protocol that continues its search for new revenue streams. And yeah, that's what the bear market, in some ways, the bear market has been really good for the space because it has made companies search for that. Like projects have to search for revenue streams now.
And it really shows you who really has the hustle to be here, right? There's so many projects that, like in bull markets, you could just throw up any kind of crap coin that you wanted to, and there was going to be liquidity injected into it. And then, people would profit off of that. But here in a bear market, you're fighting over the same liquidity. So you can't just keep doing that. You have to pivot and find new areas of revenue or new enticing features. And that's exciting for me because I do hustle in this. I do love it, and I'm going to continue to do it. But it's kind of crazy to see how many people tumbled to greed. And when the lights went off and it got dark, everybody got scared and ran. So, but some people are still here building, and I highly recommend looking for those kind of protocols.
Okay. Yep. Very cool. And more questions from the audience. So whenever I say we're about to wrap up, that's when everybody gets in their last minute questions. So let's see. Can you explain what the 20% profit from the NFTs is going to be used for?
I'm not familiar with what exactly that's referring to.
Okay.
I think he means the 20% that goes to the community wallet. We'll actually be using that to invest in in some type of nodes, like validator nodes. So we'll have some proof of stake in there. We'll also be investing in more risky DeFi protocols. And that's just to ensure that we can have a constant stream of something for the investors of Walrus Anglers Club.
Okay. And then you talked a little bit about this earlier, but are you going to be giving KDA to investors?
So it will actually bridge it and give it to you in L1 assets. And that's just so that we don't have to accrue all kinds of new wallets all the time. Because if it gets sold in the secondary market, then you have to collect a new wallet. And honestly, it's just much more simple if I give it back to you on the same chain. You hold the NFT and just airdrop it. It's the same value to you unless you want to be long on KDA, which I do understand. So just know that before you get in. And if there ever is a native bridge, which I actually do expect going to AVAX, because currently there's only one for Ethereum, but I do expect Kadena to allow a native bridge to AVAX and BSC and all the others. And once that happens, of course, we can start bridging it over and providing it to you all in straight Kadena.
Okay. And then I want to answer this one. So Jay says, do you have any idea of apps running on Kadena? And actually, I have the Kadena team coming on for an AMA when I get back from Dubai. So stay tuned for that because Kadena is some of the best blockchain technology with some of the worst marketing. Just no one's heard of them. But I'm having them on for an AMA because I was kind of wondering the same thing, like, what's Kadena doing? What are they doing with this awesome technology?
Well, they also don't use Solidity. So a lot of the current DeFi developers don't really want to migrate because why would they? So they have to start giving reasons for those developers to start moving over. And I know they have a huge investor backing, so they can probably pay out for investors for developers to start learning the ecosystem and developing products. But that takes time, and it's definitely a younger protocol or blockchain in terms of Bitcoin and other proof of works, right?
Yep, absolutely. And then Dow King wants to know, when will the mining start? Not the minting. The minting is going now. When will the mining start?
So once we procure enough funds to start purchasing KA3s and find providers that can actually give us access to them, we will be purchasing them, and we still plan on getting them no matter when we got them because they're all in pre-order. They wouldn't start shipping till December anyway. So we're looking to try and mint enough to definitely get the miners before then and still get them in December loaded up in our lease and then start mining. And then, of course, the 6-month compound period. And after the 6-month compound period, of course, we would start paying out to investors.
Okay. And then the Dean of DeFi would like to know what other coins are in your crosshairs besides KDA. And I'd have to assume Bitcoin.
Bitcoin. Well, I'm a huge AVAX maxi. Honestly, subnets I think are huge for DeFi, and I think it will show a lot of benefits. And I actually just love AVAX. I think the transactions per second, it just really can compete with the top 5. We just saw BSC chain go down. It's completely centralized. AVAX I feel like is one of those decentralized protocols or blockchains that really can't go down because there is a lot of validators and it's growing. And it's just an excellent ecosystem to me, the communities and everything else. But I'm a little bit biased. Everything I've been building is on AVAX, and I love the team and stuff.
Okay. And then are there special rare traits for these NFTs like there were for Hydra Whales?
Of course, yeah. Hydra Whales beefed it up to 200 plus traits. Of course, there are rare traits and there are normal traits. We'll release all of that information once we start doing reveals, which actually should be coming up soon. We were going to wait till the end of the mint, but we are going to probably start releasing the actual NFTs and allowing you to have a full reveal of these NFTs so people can start getting excited and trading them if they're collectors.
Okay. All right. And then we've got maybe some personal issue. Well, let's do this one first. Can Lame Hillbillies share any alpha today? That's a wonderful question. I don't like to ask it myself, but someone in the comments did. So
I guess, the disappointing news is that we didn't get the KA3 miners, but the good news is that there's a ton of providers for these things. I don't really necessarily have any alpha. I don't like to try and give out like hype news. I'm still here in DeFi and I'm still going to be building for you all. So that's the alpha I can give you is that I'm always trying. So
that's awesome, man. I appreciate it. And then we'll close up with these 2 personal questions. First off, Avery wants to know, is there any truth to the rumors involving LHB, a walrus, and a finger? And I have no idea what that's in.
Avery is consistently doing things like this. He's a constant, that's what he does. That's his full-time job is to meme in our chat. And of course you see my community showing out. We have a lot of big numbers here. We had like 120 viewers, James. We got popular there on a live stream.
You guys, this has been an awesome community. I really appreciate it. Then last question, we'll end with this one. If you guys have more questions, I put a link to the Discord. If you have questions for me, feel free to DM me or hop in. We have a members-only chat. Feel free to go in there. Happy to talk through. Love to talk through. If you have yield notes questions, I'm happy to talk through it. I don't know more than you, but happy to talk through it. But last question here. Austin, your favorite Kentucky bourbon?
So I'm actually sober 4 years, but in my local location, in about 30 minutes around me, there is Maker's Mark. And I think when I was drinking, I never really had a preference, which is probably why I don't drink anymore. I never really had a preference like that. Maybe my brother Top Gun Hatch, who's in the chat, maybe he can let you know, but I'm no drinker.
Okay, there you go. Hey, congrats on the 4 years, man. That's awesome.
Thank you.
Awesome. Well, hey, this has been incredible. I've loved it. Do you have any final words or things we didn't touch on or anything else that you want to say to either your community or potential investors?
Sure. If you're watching this, just know that I do genuinely care. I'm very appreciative of my position and what I do in DeFi, and I actually do want the best for people. And there's not a lot of people in this space that has the receipts to prove that. But I actually do, and it's shown time and time again. I have a real passion for this industry. I want to leave it off to my kids better than it currently is right now. It's a disgusting space sometimes, and I think DeFi is part of the future. It's not going away, and if you enjoy teams that really have passion for this industry, that really try their best and constantly improve their communication on a daily basis, that's what I can tell you 100% with certainty that you will always get. And that respect, my DMs are always open. I've been communicating with every single team member, no matter how big I get. And that's just, I guess that's my ending statement is if you want somebody that cares and you want to look for a DeFi protocol that you can ride through with the bear market with a great community, Frozen Walrus has been that. So
awesome. Well, hey, I sense your genuineness. And I'm glad that we were able to meet. I'm sorry it's taken so long, but I was happy to meet you. And as always, feel free to reach out if you need anything. If you need tweets, retweets, want to do another AMA, let me know, and happy to do that.
Yeah, we may pick up on another AMA. Well, it depends where we're at, and I really do appreciate moving me back to the 12th when I know that you were really busy to all the way to the 27th. So thank you so much, man.
Hey, yep, no worries, man. I think this went great. So really happy to have you. All right. Well, hey, everybody, stay tuned. Again, I will get a yield node. A lot of people ask me about yield nodes. I will get an update to you as soon as I know anything more than what was in the email that everyone read. I will for sure get that out. Okay. I'm not going to keep any information to myself. I appreciate you guys. Please hit like on the way out. Thanks again, Austin. And yeah, I hope everybody has a great rest of their day.
Thank you,
Thanks,
guys.
guys.